Ladies and gentlemen, boy, did I miss you folks for a full week. But we're back. We're in the saddle for a long time now. I want to thank all the wonderful hosts who sat in, those who I know anyway. Thank you very, very much. And they do a great job, but it's great to be back with you. Super Bowl, for many of you, it was a letdown. For me, it was a high because, as you know, I'm from the Philadelphia area, and I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan. And I'm a fan of other cities, too, but this one in particular, the Eagles. And for those of us who are Eagle fans, that was a very, very great game. Kansas City, obviously, was a humiliation. I'm sure you're upset, like so many of us were 2 years ago, but like so many are whenever you lose. That's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Everything's on the line, and it's black and white. You either win or you don't. That first call by the refs, I was about to lose my mind, but looks like they called one on Kansas City. There really wasn't an interference or a personal foul, helmet to helmet, so they tried to even it up, and from there on, they were pretty good. But it was a complete blowout, and I'll tell you why it's a blowout. This is now a game of the big men, at least it was in this Super Bowl, the big men, the front lines, and not just the offensive line, the defensive line. I find Tom Brady to actually be an excellent color commentator. I think he started out a little shaky, as people do when they start out in a profession, but he's really good, and he explains things in a way that the greatest quarterback ever, certainly one of them, if not the one, can only explain about how things are set up and what it's going through a quarterback's mind. And I just thought it was superb, and those two do a great job. There's others who do a great job, too, but I just find him to be excellent. I don't know him. I'm no special pleader. I'm not kissing butt. I'm just telling you from my perspective. And I think when you have the size of the human beings that the Eagles have on both lines, defense and offense, and keep in mind, these other teams are big players, too, but nothing like this. I mean, these guys, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 350, 358, 367 pounds. They're going to beat you down and beat you down. The offensive line for Kansas City, they just blew them out. That is, the defensive line did. And the offensive line for the Eagles were just, they gave, Hurts the time he needs. He's a little slower getting rid of the ball, but he got rid of the ball quickly. The one interception he threw was down, I think, on the 10th or 14th yard line of Kansas City, so it didn't matter that much. Other than that, he was superb. And he was superb, period. Mahomes looked completely rattled. He had no time to do anything. Zero. And I just thought the Eagles really brought it. They were not going to be denied. This hype about 3 in a row and is the greatest team ever, and so forth and so on. When you're my age, you've seen a lot of great teams. It's a great team. Doesn't mean it's the greatest team ever. That is Kansas City. It's a great team. You're probably one of the greatest coaches ever, Andy Reid. But Andy Reid didn't know what to do either. And the reason's simple. What was he going to do? Those lines are too big. And they stopped Barkley. I mean, really did. They were focused on Barkley. So what did the Eagles do? Hurts runs. He's got some of the greatest receivers in the game. They get the ball. His tight end is great. So they have so many tools. And it's amazing how little this team was talked about. Barkley was talked about a lot. Because, look, he's one of the greatest running backs he was this year we've ever seen. But the team itself was not really talked up. Everybody's talking about Detroit. Everybody was talking about the Ravens. Everybody's talking about Kansas City and Buffalo. Great, great, great teams, by the way. But they weren't talking about the Eagles that way, and I think a part of it was because last year they completely puttered out. It was embarrassing and upsetting. But this year they didn't. They got off to a little bit of a difficult start, and then that was it. They never looked back. In the way that they crushed the Washington Redskins / Commanders, it's hard for me to say Commanders, but Commanders, was a signal, I think, to most people 2 weeks ago, that particularly when you consider how good they are, that is, the Commanders and their quarterback and so forth. I think that was shed a little light on it. I made a prediction. I sent it to our buddy Jesse Waters over there at Fox. I'm sure he mentioned it on the 5, aren't you, Mr. Producer? I said Eagles by 11. Did I say that to you, Rich? I don't remember. Eagles by 11. He said, wow, you're pretty certain of this, aren't you? I said, look, I'm not certain of anything. I just think it's their time. I was way off, right? They won 40-22, and it was worse than 40-22, wasn't it? And this guy's sweet. He was sweet. He is a great veteran. He is a great defensive player. I don't know. I just think man for man, in most of the positions anyway, the Eagles were just stronger. And I think the stadium, was 2/3 full of Eagles fans. Wouldn't you guess, Mr. Boot? I mean, they were cheering Trump and booing, what's her name? Taylor Swift. Yeah. Halftime game, I see some of our friends on ESPN thought it was fantastic, or if you criticize it, there's a racial element to it. No, there's not. Guys sucked. There's hip-hop that's good. I'm not a hip-hop guy, but I like a lot of different kinds of music. This guy sucked, in my humble opinion. And I suspect in the opinion of a lot of viewers. I think these guys at the NFL, the highest offices in New York, I think they want to be cool. They want to be hip. They're not cool. They're not hip. They're way overpaid. They sit on their ass. They got nothing to do. That's my opinion. Just my opinion. And that's that. I'm done. But we will have our buddy Stephen A. on the top of the next hour for a segment. He was all over it. He was watching. Good man. Now down to business. We're going to have I interviewed Donald Trump just about a couple hours ago, and we're going to have that at the bottom of the hour for you. It is the first interview he's done on radio since becoming president the second time, so it's an exclusive. He's been doing so much work, so much activity. I don't know how he does it, honestly. None of us do, really. But I want to read a quote to you. Because we now know that a lot of the media have been on the take. A lot of the media have been feeding at the public trough. We've been subsidizing the media through our government. Politico, some of the others. It's really disgusting. It's shocking. They should close shop, those that were caught anyway. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, let me repeat. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it, a legal system that authorizes it, and a moral code that glorifies it. Is that not the most brilliant one sentence you've ever heard? Let me repeat it, and then I'll tell you the source. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. That's what you're watching today, right now in Washington, D.C. Everybody who's feeding from the public trough, but particularly the power brokers in Washington, the Democrat Party, the unions for the bureaucrats, the media, that really is a subsidy of the federal government in so many ways. What would they be reporting if there wasn't a massive federal government anyway? These people have created for themselves a legal system. You see these judges? I'm getting into this. That authorizes it. They claim that the Constitution compels corruption. The Constitution compels graft. The Constitution compels stealing your tax dollars and subsidizing people who hate you, subsidizing perversion, subsidizing in other countries, that somehow it is constitutionally compelled. And if you challenge it, if you even want to conduct audits to investigate it, that somehow you're the one destroying the United States Constitution. If you want to get spending under control and the bureaucracy under control, you're destroying the United States Constitution. You're a threat to humanity. Again, you're a threat to democracy. We heard it all weekend long. Those of us who are fools enough to listen to it, and count me out, I was not. I'm just reading the transcripts from what I saw today. So now the Constitution of the United States compels governmental graft, governmental waste and abuse, governmental crookedness, the redistribution of wealth, a massive welfare state, not just in our country, but international. Somehow, somewhere, that's what the framers intended. Where? It's nowhere. But you have loathsome, low-life senators like this Chris Murphy from Connecticut. You've got hosts who are the most grotesquely stupid, ideologically buffoonish individuals, period, let alone to be on a public platform, like that clown from Meet the Press, whatever the hell her name is. I'll get to it. We got a lot to do. I've got 3 guests tonight, and they're all great. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. So now if you stand up against plunder, unconstitutional plunder, and the head of the executive branch, the president, says, I got to get my branch of government under control. I want to put in a temporary freeze so I can see what's going on. I want to conduct an audit of the books over at the Treasury Department. I want to offer these enormous numbers of federal bureaucrats an opportunity to accept severance pay. I want to take steps to control the government, to get rid of U.S. aid and all the corrupt money the Democrats have flowed through it to its causes and its friends and all the rest of it. We're now told by one federal judge after another, that this may violate the Constitution or some statute. They've created a legal system in their own minds, but they've created a legal system to protect plunder. That is the plundering of you. And let me tell you something, and your children and your grandchildren. We have a $36.5 trillion on-budget debt. We have a $300 trillion off-budget debt. And so you have a man who has the guts, as President of the United States, first of all, to become president again, what he went through. The same lawfare in our legal system, but now with activist Democrat judges and activist rhino judges participating in the plunder, participating in the grotesque abuse of you, the American people. You're not allowed to cut one damn penny, even if it means money that goes for transgender education in Cambodia. It doesn't matter. Not one damn penny. And now the Democrats are saying we're going to shut down the federal government if they attempt to cut these budgets. They're actually saying 2 things. I actually have one guy, this new senator from New Jersey, who looks like he's dumb as hell, sounds like he's dumb as hell. Well, I may have to vote to shut down the government. Then on the other side, you have other Democrats like Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker saying, the Republicans want to shut down the government. So their strategy is to shut down the government. They're finally going to blame Trump and the Republicans for their violations of the Constitution. They're also out there saying that the Republicans are trying to destroy Social Security. They've had a hell of a weekend. A hell of a weekend.